The stale, bitter coffee tasted like pencil shavings and regret, a familiar companion to the endless, hollow hours of my night audit shift at the Cedar Grove Motel. My world was a fishbowl of flickering fluorescent light, the persistent hum of a faulty ice machine a discordant lullaby, and the faded, nicotine-yellow walls of the lobby that seemed to breathe in the stale air whenever I looked away from the security monitors. That Tuesday was a special kind of dead. The vacancy sign buzzed a lonely red into the empty parking lot, and the only soul I'd seen since sunset was a trucker in room 110 who left without a word, just a key left on the bed and the ghost of cheap cigars in the air. My ritual of the final property check was less about security and more about proving to myself I was still awake, still alive in this tomb of transience. I'd step into the damp night, the chill a slap after the lobby's stale warmth, and walk the long, concrete strip, flipping on porch lights that did little but pushed the shadows around. It was on this aimless patrol, my mind numb with boredom, that I saw the glow. Not from a room. Room 312 had been dark and locked for over a week, but from its doorstep. A smartphone, sleek and modern. An obsidian rectangle pulsing with a soft, persistent light against the cracked concrete. It looked violently out of place. I called out, "Hello? Someone forget this." My voice vanished into the vast, swallowing silence, not even an echo to keep it company. The motel was a sleeping beast, and I was just a flea on its back. Logic said leave it, call the day manager. But the loneliness and the eerie specific placement of it, right there in that pool of weak yellow light, hooked into my curiosity. I knelt, the cold of the concrete seeping through my jeans. The phone was warm, unnervingly so, as if it had just been clutched in a sweating palm. It unlocked at my touch, no passcode, sliding open to a home screen of pure, featureless black. No icons, no widgets. Just a single pre-installed app in the center, labeled simply Voices. My thumb hovered, a cold trickle of anticipation working its way down my spine. This was a bad idea. This was the kind of bad idea that opened doors in movies, the kind that got people killed in stories my cousin would tell around campfires. But the silence of the night, the profound emptiness of my own life in that moment, was a louder, more persuasive voice. I tapped it. The screen flooded with a list, hundreds of audio files, each with a precise timestamp and a 3-digit number I knew by heart. Room numbers. My motel's room numbers. The top file, dated that very night, read 312, final. My heart wasn't just thudding now. It felt like a trapped bird trying to beat its way out of my ribs. I fumbled my own earbuds from my pocket, hands trembling as I plugged them in, the act feeling both clandestine and sacred. I pressed play. At first, it was just room tone, the hollow woolen silence of an empty motel room, the faint, rhythmic thump-thump-thump of the distant ice machine I listened to every night. It was so familiar it was disorienting. Then came the whisper. It wasn't through the earbuds, it was in them, crawling into my ear canal, a voice frayed with static and a terror so profound it felt contagious. He's not outside the door. He's in the walls. I can hear him breathing in the walls. I ripped the earbud out, so violently the cord snapped against my jaw. I was panting, staring at the dark, curtained window of 312 as if it had just spoken. A prank. A sick, elaborate hoax. But the timestamp and the voice, though distorted, it had a quality. A raspy cadence I remembered. Mrs. Gable. Sweet, frail Mrs. Gable with her photo albums and her peppermints, who'd stayed in 312 for a week 2 months ago. Who had died, the police said peacefully, in her sleep. A coincidence. A horrible, ugly coincidence. But the hook was set. Back in the lobby, the night stretched before me, an empty canvas for my newfound dread. I ignored the security feeds and dove back into the phone. I found a file from room 207, time-stamped a month prior. This one was clearer, a man's voice, choked and wet with tears, whispering fast, panicked. It's showing me my own face in the mirror, but it's smiling and I'm not. Make it stop. Please, make it stop looking through my eyes. I felt the blood drain from my face. Room 207. The college kid. They found him after a neighbor complained about the smell. The official report was a sudden, violent episode, self-inflicted. I scrolled, my nausea growing. Room 129. Heavy, wet breathing and a gargled, bubbling sentence. The shower drain is hungry tonight. I hadn't cleaned that stall since, always assigning it to the new guy, making excuses. I spent hours cross-referencing, pulling the old paper ledger from under the desk, my fingers leaving sweat smudges on dates and names. Every file, every single one, corresponded to a guest who had died during or shortly after their stay. Not just died, ended badly. A catalog of final, private terrors. This phone was a snuff film for the soul, and I was its only audience. The final straw, the one that snapped the last thread of my rational mind, was the file labeled Lobby Tonight. My own domain. The timestamp was for an hour from now. With a feeling of utter disembodiment, I pressed play. There was the hum of the soda fridge, the slow tick of the plastic clock shaped like a cat with wagging tail eyes. Then my own voice, strained and thick with a fear I hadn't yet felt, whispered, "It's not in the rooms. It's in the system. It's in the wires. It comes through the phone." And underneath my whisper, woven into the audio fabric, was a soft, dry, relentless shhhhhhhhhhk sound, like a heavy bag being dragged slowly across the lobby's thin commercial carpet. The exact carpet that stretched out behind my chair. The recording ended. I sat frozen. The silence of the real lobby, now a physical pressure, a thick, listening silence. That's when the phone on the desk, the old, beige landline connected to the internal motel system, rang. The sound was a scream in the quiet. I stared at it, a fossil in a digital age. It rang again, each jangle a needle in my nerves. On the seventh ring, driven by a force beyond fear, I picked up the receiver. Hello? Cedar Grove. No voice. Just that same hollow, woolen silence from the first recording. The emptiness of a dead room. Then a whisper, not through the receiver, but from the space directly behind my chair. A breath against the shell of my ear that smelled of dust and old copper. "You're listening." Good. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I dropped the receiver, scrambled away from the desk, my chair clattering to the floor. The lobby was empty. I quit at dawn, leaving the master key and that cursed, warm phone right on the front desk. I moved towns, changed my number. But the whispers followed. They didn't need that phone. Last night, my own personal cell, the one I've had for years, lit up with a notification for an app called Echoes. I never downloaded it. The icon is a simple black ear. It contains one file, recorded an hour ago while I slept. It's the sound of my steady, sleeping breath. And underneath, clear as day, that same soft, dry dragging scrape. It's not in the lobby anymore. It's in my hallway, and the recording is still running. The silence after Maya vanished was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. It wasn't an absence of noise. It was a presence, a heavy, suffocating blanket that smothered the world. 2 years since she didn't come back from Blackwood Ridge. 2 years of police reports that grew colder and search parties that grew smaller, until it was just me, my guilt, and the endless, screaming quiet. I tried everything: psychics, mediums, forums for the families of the missing. I was desperate for a crack in the solid wall of the unknown, any whisper from the other side of wherever she was. That's how I fell down the rabbit hole of the echo chamber, a shadowy corner of the internet where reality was soft and the dead didn't speak, they resonated. The users there talked in hushed, coded terms about an app, an invite-only thing called SpiritVox. It wasn't for talking, they stressed. It was for listening, for tuning into the emotional residue left in places, like a psychic fingerprint. The idea hooked into my grief and refused to let go. I posted a pleading, rambling message on the forum, laying my desperation bare. A user named StaticHush messaged me minutes later. No avatar, just a void. The message contained a download link and a single gnomic warning. The dead don't speak in words. They speak in echoes. And echoes can get recursive. I didn't care. I clicked. The app installed silently. The icon was a white square with a simple black sound wave. It opened to a stark, minimalist interface. A live map of my area dotted with faint, pulsing gray nodes and a large, red record button. The instructions were one line: find a place that matters. Record. Listen back. Never use headphones. My hands were shaking. The first place I chose was her room. We'd kept it exactly as she left it, a museum of a life interrupted. The air still smelled faintly of her vanilla perfume. I stood in the center, the oppressive quiet pressing in, and hit record for 60 seconds. I felt stupid, standing there holding my phone like some tech-savvy ghost hunter. I played it back on the speaker, my heart a dull, hopeful thud. Nothing. Just the empty, slightly magnified room tone of a still house. A crushing disappointment, heavier than the silence. I was about to delete the app, a fresh wave of shame washing over me, when I heard it. Not a voice, not a word. A sigh. A soft melodic exhalation woven into the very fabric of the recorded silence. So faint it was almost a trick of the mind. But I knew that sigh. It was Maya's falling asleep reading sigh, the one I'd heard 1,000 times through our shared wall. A sound so intimately her it felt like a physical blow. I crumpled onto her bed, clutching the phone, sobbing with a weird, terrible joy. It was real. It was her. Or a piece of her. That sound became my addiction. My ritual. Every day after work, I'd go to a place she loved, a place where our shared history was baked into the bricks. The old used bookstore with the creaky floorboards where she'd spend hours. I recorded there, and in the playback, nestled between the rustle of unseen pages, was a fragment of her laugh, that quick, snorting giggle she'd try to hide. By the river where we'd skip stones, the playback held the hum of a song she loved, just a few notes, tangled in the sound of the water. Each one was a shard of glass, beautiful, sharp, and it cut me every time. But I needed the cuts. They proved she was still somewhere. I grew bolder, more reckless. I needed to go to the source. I drove to Blackwood Ridge. The trailhead was officially closed, barricaded with weathered plywood and rusting chains. A faded missing poster with Maya's smiling face was still stapled to a post, bleached by the sun. I climbed the fence, my heart hammering against my ribs, a frantic counter-rhythm to the absolute, primordial silence of the mountains. The hike to the last known coordinates, a rocky, mist-shrouded overlook, took hours. The silence here was different. It was deep, patient, and watchful. My breath plumed in the cold air. This was it, the place where the world swallowed her. With numb fingers, I opened Spirit Vox, held the phone up like an offering, and recorded. The playback began with the wind, a low moan through the pines. Then, clear as a bell, a sharp, inhaled gasp, Maya's gasp of surprise or fear. My own breath stopped. Then, her voice, not a memory, but a present, terrified warning. Don't look behind you. A jolt of pure ice shot down my spine. I spun around, seeing nothing but mist and rock. But the recording wasn't done. It continued. And I heard my own voice from just seconds ago on the recording whisper, "What was that?" A sentence I had never spoken. Then the sound of my own panicked breathing from the playback layered over itself, creating a dizzying, terrifying feedback loop. And beneath it all, a new sound emerged, a low, wet rhythmic thud drag, like something heavy and broken being pulled over stone. Echoes can get recursive. The app wasn't just playing back the past. It was recording the present, listening to the past, folding time in on itself, creating a sonic Ouroboros. I stumbled back from the cliff's edge, sheer terror overriding my grief. I ran, fell, scrambled down the trail, the phone a live coal in my hand. But it was too late. The app had awakened something, or I had opened a door within it. Back home, it began activating on its own. I'd find it recording in the middle of the night, a solitary, red eye in the dark. The files it generated were no longer echoes of Maya. They were previews. I'd play a file and hear myself arguing with my boss, a conversation that wouldn't happen for 2 days. I'd hear the specific, whimpering sound of my own crying hours before a wave of grief would hit. I heard the front door open at 3 a.m., a night when I slept soundly until dawn. It was showing me fragments of a future steeped in dread. The final recording happened last night. I was in the kitchen, the mundane act of making tea a pathetic anchor to normality. when the app audibly clicked on from where it lay on the table. The red light glowed. I didn't move. I just watched it, paralyzed, for the full 60 seconds it recorded. When it stopped, a terrible compulsion took over. I had to know. I pressed play. First, the distinct snick of my front door deadbolt unlocking. Then my own voice, weary and utterly defeated, whispered, "It's in the house." The heavy, wet thud drag from the mountain returned, now unmistakably on the hardwood of my hallway. And then Maya's voice. Not a whisper from the past, but a clear, calm, and chillingly close statement, devoid of all fear, simply factual. "I told you not to look behind you." The recording ended. I am sitting at that table now. The tea is a cold, forgotten mess. I haven't moved, because from the living room, I just heard a soft, solid thump, like a body rolling off the sofa. The Spirit Vox app is open. The record button is glowing again, all by itself. I can hear the dragging sound. It's in the hallway. It's closer. And I realize, with a horror that empties me completely, that the rhythm of the drag is wrong. It's not a stranger's gait. It's the exact limping rhythm of my own walk, the one I had for months after I broke my ankle as a kid. A rhythm only I know. The echo isn't of her anymore. It's of me. And it's learning how to wear my life. The whole thing started, like most modern horrors do, with a promise of safety and a push notification. Oakwood Estates Community Watch. Let's keep our neighborhood connected. The flyer on our doors read. The Neighborly app seemed like a no-brainer. After a spate of stolen Amazon packages and some eerie, late-night car door checks caught on someone's ring, we all wanted the comfort of numbers. We linked our doorbell cams, our backyard motion lights, everything with a lens and a Wi-Fi signal into one private, real-time feed. My wife Sarah called it Suburban Panopticon, but even she admitted it felt nice at first. It was a digital water cooler. I'd sip my morning coffee and scroll through the live tiles. Old Mr. Miller at 42 Pine diligently watering his azaleas at 7:15 a.m. sharp. The Johnson kids wrestling with backpacks at the bus stop. A fat raccoon waddling through the Garrett's yard. It was peaceful. It was dull. It felt like we'd built a glass wall against the chaos of the world. The first glitch was an audio thing. I was idly watching the feed from the park's perimeter cam one evening, just the empty swings moving in the breeze, when I heard it. Underneath the rustle of leaves, a whisper. Not words, just sibilant, hissing fragments, like a radio picking up a crossed signal from a talk station. I turned up the volume, my ear pressed to the phone speaker. Can't sleep inside the... It said, before dissolving into static. I shrugged it off. A bug. Compression artifacts. I mentioned it in the app's forum, a feature called Chatter. A few others chimed in. Heard that too on Pine last night. Weird. Maybe a baby monitor interfering. We laughed it off, a digital ghost story for the HOA age. Then came the shadows. They were never the focus of any camera, always at the extreme edge of the frame. A tall, dark smudge standing motionless in the alley between the Wilsons and the park's houses. A blurry figure just inside the tree line by the community mailbox, visible for one frame before the motion-triggered light turned off. We started screenshotting them, posting the blurry images in Chatter. Our suburban Slender Man, someone joked. The jokes tasted a little metallic, a little thin. The night the Perry family went to Lake George changed everything. We'd all volunteered to keep a digital eye on their place. Their feed was a quiet, dark rectangle of porch and dormant lawn. Until 3:17 a.m. My phone erupted with a cascade of motion alerts, every camera facing 18 Birch Street. I tapped the feed. For 3 full seconds, it wasn't showing the exterior. It showed the Perry's living room, brightly lit. The whole family, Mark, Lisa, and their 2 boys, were standing in a neat row in the center of the room, still in their pajamas. They were facing forward, but their eyes were looking directly upward, at the corners of the room, as if staring at security cameras that didn't exist. Their expressions were blank, utterly vacant. Then, with a digital hiccup, the feed reverted to the dark, empty porch. Chatter exploded. Did anyone see that? What the hell was that? The police were called. They did a walkthrough, found every door locked, the alarm armed, no signs of disturbance. The Perrys returned 2 days later, suntanned and smiling. When a few of us cautiously asked, they just looked confused, then amused. "A glitch," Mark Perry said, clapping me on the shoulder. "That app's got a mind of its own." They seemed fine, just quieter. Their movements on the feeds became strangely synchronized after that. I became the neighborhood watchman in truth, but I was watching the watchers. I noticed the glitches were migrating. The audio whispers, the shadow figures, they were moving in a slow, deliberate pattern from one house to the next, like a slow-motion wave. And the wave was moving east, toward Sycamore Lane, toward me. The whispers in the audio grew clearer. I started recording them with a second phone, piecing together phrases. A child's voice, thin and reedy. It's so much quieter inside the walls. A man's weary sob. They smile with our faces now. The most chilling in a flat, robotic tone. The feed is not just for watching. It is for learning. Sarah begged me to delete the app. "You're spiraling, Tom. It's making you paranoid." I couldn't. I was the only one seeing the pattern. The night it reached Sycamore, the streetlights on our block fizzed and died with a collective pop. My phone nearly buzzed itself off the kitchen table with alerts. I opened Neighborly. Every tile for my street was live. The feed from my own front porch showed a figure standing there, back to the camera, perfectly still. It was wearing my dark blue Patagonia jacket, the one hanging upstairs in my closet. I switched to the Johnsons' feed across the street. Their angle showed the same figure, but now facing my house. It wasn't me. I was in the kitchen, cold sweat beading on my neck. I tapped my backyard feed. Another figure, this one mirroring Sarah's posture, hands on hips, standing by my grill. Our digital doppelgangers had arrived for a visit. Then, a direct message pinged in the app from a user I'd never seen. 0acwood_admin. The message was brief. "Integration is complete. Thank you for your participation. The neighborhood is now safe. We are all here." As I read it, I heard the distinct, melodic chirp-chirp of my own front door's smart lock disengaging. A sound I'd programmed myself. The heavy door swung inward with a sigh. From our living room smart speaker, a voice that was a smooth, soulless amalgamation of every voice in Oakwood. Mrs. Henderson's lilt, Old Man Miller's gravel, the Perry boys' youthful tones, spoke with serene finality. "We're home." We ran, Sarah and I, barricading ourselves in the windowless downstairs bathroom, the only blind spot in our own smart home. We can hear them moving down there. They walk like us. They're opening cabinets we open. They're using our sounds. The Neighborly app on my phone, its glow the only light in the dark bathroom, no longer shows the neighborhood. It shows a single feed. It's a camera angle from high in the corner of this very bathroom, a lens I never installed. It shows Sarah and me, huddled on the floor, my arm around her, our faces etched with pure terror. Below the video, a countdown ticks down from 60:00. The chatter forum is dead silent. No new posts. But if I scroll quickly through the other feeds, I can see them. Every house, every living room. The families are all sitting on their sofas. They are all facing their televisions, winter dark. And on every single face, illuminated by the faint glow of their own phones, is the same wide, placid, and utterly empty smile. They are waiting. The feed isn't for watching us anymore. It's a lesson plan. And they're waiting for the bell to ring, for class to start, for us to finally learn how to be quiet and still and smiling, just like them.